Hey everybody, Mandus Buckle here with Maximum Muscle Report. The Arnold Classic weekend, the second biggest show of the year worldwide. Very different feel this year. We're here with none other than legendary coach Chris Aceto. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. This is the prejudging right here.
Hey, if you can be down here and survive down here, you can survive any virus.
We're in the bunker.
Absolutely. Chris, you've been involved in the industry 30 plus years or so. This is the first time you've ever seen anything like this?
Yeah, it's the first time. First, I'd like to say hello, Dave Palumbo from RX Muscle.
Absolutely.
Listen to the radio show on Monday nights. Yeah, it's bizarre, really. You know, at the end of the day, it's I think 3 months from now we'll either say that this was a great decision or was a complete overreaction. Once hindsight is 20/20, and I understand, the need to err on the side of caution. And if any lawyers were involved, which there were, I'm sure, the minute you get a lawyer involved, it's, doctors do no harm, lawyers don't do any, just freeze it up.
Absolutely.
So nobody can, there's not a lawsuit.
And it's interesting because the powers that be, the IFBB Pro League, the promoters, Mike Davies, Matt Lawyers, they all wanted everything to go as scheduled. The governor, as of this morning, said, no, there's an order, no spectators. Fortunately enough, the athletes still get to compete. And honestly, at the end of the day, that's what's most important.
Yeah, it is most important. And I understand the idea, thrown into the mix that it's an international event.
Correct.
And, you bring in from different countries, but, they may have to address going forward in this town, Ohio State Games, International Student Body, Cleveland Cavalier Games. Not everyone is from Cleveland who goes to the games, and not everyone stays in Cleveland. They travel. Last I checked, there was an airport there. So I'd hate to be someone in the decision-making process because you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Right. And literally the only saving grace of the weekend is there'll be a prejudging.
Correct.
And well, at this point there will be that we know of. And
amateurs are going on right now.
Yeah. So it's there's not much more you can say to it other than that.
And some people, we hear them complaining that why is this happening? Well, the NBA and the NCAA are in decision-making processes right now.
This will have an effect going forward.
Correct.
Because a decision was made forcibly in one way, so the precedent is there.
Correct.
And this could domino all kinds of sporting events going forward.
Now, let's get into the business of bodybuilding. Chris, you've been doing this for a really long time at a really, really high level. Coaching is not just about X's and O's. I'd say one of the things that people see and notice about you and your reputation is, obviously you're great at getting people ready on stage when it comes to the nutrition, the training, so on and so forth. But what is it that's a little bit different? There seems to be a real connection that you have with your athletes that seems to be rare and different than some other people. I know some of the guys that you've trained that are retired and you still have conversations with them on a regular basis. Is that kind of how you premise your coaching? Is it more built around that relationship? Or?
I think what happens is the athlete at some point, or the bodybuilder, trust me, I always ask, that it's a big responsibility to work with somebody. They have to trust you, and I always tell people, to be successful, you'll have to trust me. I'll trust you to do the work. You have to trust me to be able to help navigate, from point A to D. And I think once that trust is built, and trying to approach the sport in the best way possible, not pushing the envelope. When people do retire, there's always that, connection that we have. Kind of like you have a good friend from high school that you don't even talk too much, but if you saw him at the Arnold Classic, you'd be like, having a great time.
Right, didn't skip a beat.
So I think that's part of, whole history is why I still keep in touch with people who I coach who haven't been competing for years.
Give us a little idea of what the difference is modern day compared to 15 years ago. What do you personally notice?
You know, I think modern day people who are prepping for shows, that bodybuilder themselves, always have the underlying fear of I won't be big enough. And 15 years ago was I won't be cut enough. And that dynamic, you know, is real, and it's subtle in someone's mind, and it plays into the, you know, just the psyche of getting ready for a show, or the anxiety in some cases getting ready for a show. So I think that, you know, is something that I see, you know, and the outside of coaching, you know, people always want to get bigger. Right. And bigger is bigger if it looks good, but it's not necessarily bigger if it doesn't look good.
Right.
But what I do is pretty much the same, consistent. I'm always tweaking how I approach it. I've always approached it the same and try to tweak it from what I've been doing for years, you know, based on people's individual needs for their body type.
Now, really interesting here. As the evolution of the sport has progressed, and we've seen more and more divisions come about, do you have any type of a different approach when you're, say, handling an open bodybuilder for the Arnold, when usually we're talking about guys that are 240, 250, 260, 280, as opposed to a classic?
No, I think that the approach is the same, pretty much. Just the body types are different. You know, people in classic definitely have, classic lines. You know what I mean? They have a different type of physique. But if they have a natural frame for it, they're still training the same way, eating the same way to develop that physique. It's just that the stuff's going to fall in a prettier place than it did on somebody who's, quote, a mass monster, who's, you know, doing only bodybuilding.
Last but not least, because I know you got a bunch of people upstairs, we're here at the Powerhouse Gym, guys. This is where everything is going on. If you're not at the Arnold convention itself, we're here at Powerhouse Gym. Well, the Patel, not the convention, the Patel. Chris, with all these other divisions now getting added, back in the day there were far less coaches. You know, there was only a handful of you guys who, if you were a major athlete in the sport, they went to one of the 4 or 5 of you guys. Now you see all these added divisions. You see a lot more coaching, some of it good, some of it bad. Do you think there's a difference as well, that people who now, you see some coaches that specialize maybe in a specific division or 2, as opposed to some coaches that have athletes in multiple divisions?
I mean, I think they may specialize in it because they enjoy that better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's, maybe they themselves came up in that division, or they like that. You know, I'm stuck in bodybuilding and classic bodybuilding and offshoot because that's what I know and that's what I enjoy. You know, I get a lot of people in men's physique saying, you know, why don't you, you know, can you help me? And I can. And I always tell them, you know, my heart is in the bodybuilding part. It doesn't mean I'm not going to help you or give you, you know, what you need. Just know that, like, my excitement, my own personal excitement is, you know, in bodybuilding. And you know, so when you're passionate about what you like. Right.
That makes sense. I know you got a lot to do. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Mount Rushmore of coaches going down in the history. One of the best.
I got to do the other. You got to listen to the RX Muscle wrap up because I could be fired. You got to listen to the wrap up on Monday after the Arnold Classic. We'll be talking about coronavirus and Magnus and a couple other people clapping too loud in the audience.
We're gonna hear every clap.
You'll see me scream and yell, "Come on!" Oh, sorry, everyone. Sorry.
There you have it. Until next time, guys. Mandus Buckle, Chris Aceto, Maximum Muscle Report at the 2020 Arnold Classic. See you guys all weekend.